Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean. I will be your captain on this ship as we sail into the abyss of stupid, because today we're going to talk about that viral professor who in a congressional hearing was talking about with people with capacity get pregnant, and then she called Josh Hawley's questions violence, and she freaked out and she sounded like a 15-year-old girl. It's crazy. The reaction from the left to this is crazy. We're going to get into all that craziness, but today we got a sponsor, so I'm going to throw it over to the sponsor. Look at that throw in motion, and then it's going to come back over here and we'll talk about it on the other side. We're coming up on an election cycle, and what we've seen over the past few years, anytime the world order starts to get upended, the progressive left seems like they're going to lose their foothold, the censorship starts to come. They do not respond to defeat in any fair way. This is why it's really important that we get ahead of the problem. We join alternative social media platforms that actually work. This is one of the reasons why I partnered with Bastyon. Bastyon is a social media platform like no other. First and foremost, if you need to compare it to something, it's essentially a non-corporate version of Twitter fused in with YouTube without any of the censorship or any of that nonsense. It works through the blockchain. It doesn't require any personal information to sign up, so you don't have to rely on promises of security guarantees. You can comment completely freely without censorship, and on top of that, it has its own Pocketcoin, which is a currency tied to the app. And you get it by actually participating and using the app. And one of the great things is that you guys can actually get started really well if you click my affiliate link, join up, and just leave me 2 comments, and you will be gifted 2 pocket coins. Pretty impressive, pretty amazing, and I'm gonna throw this in on top of everything else. I will be providing you with the same early access on Bastyon that you get if you're my patron, if you're with Subscribestar, and if you're a YouTube member, all just by you signing up, joining the app, and watching my videos over there. Pretty dope early access. You don't have to worry about the mid-rolls. Sponsor that costs you nothing and gets you everything. Basically, the anti-Thanos. Now, you guys might need some background, so let me give you the quick setup. Roe vs. Wade was overturned. We've covered it a bunch of times on this channel. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't find it interesting. I find it lame. But there's congressional hearings related to the damages of the Supreme Court overturning Roe vs. Wade. So, of course, they trot out a bunch of gender studies professors, a bunch of whack jobs and weirdos from universities like Berkeley, and one of the weirdos is this professor named Khiara Bridges, who showed up with as many piercings as possible in her face, whatever happened to professionalism, and started talking about people with the capacity for pregnancy as a way of being gender inclusive, you know, because gender inclusive means we have to change the whole language for a small niche portion of the population and not mention women, even though our whole lives, the framing of the abortion issue has been a women's health issue versus the pro-life position related to protecting the lives of babies. That's been the debate for decades in this country, and now the left is obsessed with including and superseding the whole world with the transes on top of everything, so we get weird long language about people with the capacity for pregnancy, which honestly is just pointless. Like, stop making up new words. Just because you say more words to communicate the same information, that doesn't make you smarter. And Josh Hawley responds by baiting her into the stupidity that we're going to see with this very simple question.
Before I want to visit with you, Ms. Maskey, but before I do, I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
So first and foremost, Khiara Bridges, Professor Khiara Bridges, was wearing a mask before she was asked this question, meaning that she is performative mask wearing throughout the course of this hearing. If she cared about transmission, if she cared about safety, if she cared about anything but virtue signaling, she would just keep the mask on the whole time, because I got news for you, even though it slightly muffles your speech, if you have a microphone in front of you, people can still hear you. And honestly, what's a little bit of muffled speech against the lives of people?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
Now, I will take note of the fact that this person who is answering this question is lowering her voice to a childlike level, and we've seen, actually, this happen multiple different times with people with the capacity for pregnancy. They'll essentially go into little girl mode when they're talking, so it doesn't come off as aggressive, so that anything you say against them is like a person personal attack on them. Meanwhile, this is a professor that runs a classroom. She's also an authoritarian who wants to rule you with an iron fist. So I guarantee you she has a serious voice that isn't this little mousy voice that she's presenting. I just wanted to point that out and talk about the fact how, of course, she's saying we have to change the whole language for the transes, and also some women can get pregnant, and also whatever, we're going into all this niche thing. Did you know, I don't know if you guys know this, but some women get cut in half by a Frieza blade, just like Goku got Frieza cut in half at the end of Dragon Ball Z, that Frieza arc, and those women don't have female anatomy on the lower half because their lower half is gone. Therefore, in a philosophical way, are they even really women? Thank you, Professor, for your intellectual exercise.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Another thing I notice about this is the absolute smugness from the professor. She thinks that she is making a powerful statement in this moment, and she's chuckling. She's like, we can recognize
Impacts women.
that this affects women disproportionately, maybe more than it affects other people, while also acknowledging that non-binaries and transes men can also have the capacity for pregnancy, and do that by calling everybody who gets pregnant having the capacity for pregnancy, because more words makes me feel smarter.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic.
So immediately, just like the woke, nonsensical college kids that you're absolutely sick of, she goes into the name calling, the labeling, and trying to not address the question. So she says, I just want to say that your line of questioning is transphobic, and then we get that little awkward laugh like, But don't worry, because not only is it transphobic, but it actually leads to violence, thus making those words violent.
And it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I just want to point out that Josh Hawley identified his target, spotted her, and then executed his plan perfectly. He asked his question, she ended up calling him transphobic, which is absolutely the goal in this scenario, to show that these people, all they have is name calling, and then she starts conflating words with violence, which is something that people in colleges, parents that send their kids to colleges, are not likely to accept. This is not something that is palatable to the American people. So again, Hawley getting the exact results he wants from this radical activist, but it goes even further because she's going to do a drive-by statistic and then accuse him of pushing violence.
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist.
So I love Josh Hawley's tone in this moment as she's losing control, as she has no emotional discipline. After she just dropped a drive-by citation, he ends up saying, because of my line of questioning, and she doesn't really have a response. You see her stumble, and then she just continues on the ideological bend because, like an NPC, she is programmed to spit out the responses whenever she hears something against her ridiculous quote-unquote inclusive language, and this is what we're seeing.
I'm denying that trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancy.
So again, Hawley controlling his tone, asking his very simple questions, and you just hear her go, are you? Again, this is a professor. This is somebody who teaches kids, even though this seems like somebody who's about 10 years old responding to an adult or responding to another child. This is the person the Democrats called as the expert in this scenario, and somehow the left has made the abortion issue about transes and people for capacity for pregnancy and language nonsense, PC garbage, rather than arguing the point, which is why this isn't gaining the steam that they want it to gain. One of the reasons why, among many.
I'm denying that trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies.
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women think
So you're denying that trans people exist?
And that leads.
So Hawley says straight up, I don't think men can get pregnant. And then again, you get the snappy, petty, childlike response where she says, well, you're denying that trans people exist? Thank you.
To violence. Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you?
Absolutely.
Or are they also treated like this, where
No,
they're
they're
told
allowed
that
to
they're
question.
opening up people to violence?
We have a good
by
time in my
questioning?
class. You should join.
I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot
I
just in this
know,
exchange.
absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Yep.
I've learned a lot
I
just in this
know,
exchange.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So again, this is just a perfect example of the left wing being totally disconnected from reality. This professor thinks she won this exchange. This professor thinks she nailed it. She's like, slam dunk, I got it. I schooled the senator. I shut him down by saying that his words are violence, something that only fringe lefty idiots actually believe. Nailed it in every possible way, and I taught him a lesson, and some of my lefty cheerleaders that don't ignore this out of embarrassment are actually going to jump on board my team, like the Young Turks.
And bad faith, right-wing, culture war manufacturers like Josh Hawley decide to hijack this important hearing to, of course, create more content that they can use to campaign on. That's what this was about. And I think the way that Khiara Bridges, who's the expert testifying there, the way she handled it was, I think it was fantastic.
It was masterful. Because
she dismissed, she was informative, but more importantly, she dismissed him. And he, along with other Republican lawmakers, deserve to be dismissed.
So of course, Anna Kasparian over at the Young Turks is going to have an absolutely terrible take. She's talking about how the professor owned her with facts and logic. She dismissed him and it was great. And then she tries to distract you throughout the whole course of the video with other things rather than focus on the point. And you could tell by the comments, you could tell by the minimal likes and the dislike ratio that the audience isn't buying into the narrative that TYT is selling. But I do want to point out two funny things in this video, actually three funny things in this video, because we're not here to talk too much about the Young Turks, but I wanted to touch on their response because it deserves a little bit of mentioning. So after they show the second clip where this woman conflates words with violence, you could hear John Iadarola in the background a little bit low talking about how much she nailed it.
You believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can
So
get
you're
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist?
that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
And I think this is a great little clip for you guys to hear. John Iadarola barely being able to contain his jubilation at this because he is the target demographic for this kind of woke nonsense. The white progressive who's white guilted and cowardly and hates himself, the dude that is a male feminist that thinks he's an intellectual, is the only one in the United States of America cheering on this nonsense. John Iadarola is the poster boy for who is happy with this whole debacle about people with the capacity for pregnancy. Now, the next thing that I want to highlight is this little unrelated snippet that I found in this video, and you guys who are long-term fans of this channel will know why, because it's just hilarious.
I can't stomach how easy it is to manipulate Americans with this garbage.
Yeah. I mean, the
Right?
Democrats
Look,
have their own version of it.
Understandably, yes, of course Democrats have their own version of that. I'm working on an entire book about it, okay? So I'm not gonna promote it until there's some realistic dates that I can throw your way. I'm not gonna promote it until there's some realistic dates that I can throw your way.
Yeah, that's right. Anna Kasparian is allegedly writing a book about how the average American just gets manipulated by the Democratic and Republican Party. However, she's definitely not going to be promoting it, and she's not going to say anything more about it until she has some realistic dates for you, which, by the way, is just proof positive of the impact that we here on this channel, you guys out there in the audience, have. Because who highlighted the fact that Cenk Uygur started selling his book Justice is Coming May 2020 before it was written, and we are now in July of 2022, and the book is still not out yet.
My whole life, people have been telling me to do one thing, and they keep saying this, especially since I've been on the Young Turks. Every friend I have, every family member, and a lot of you guys. Will you, for God's sake, do this thing, Cenk? What is it? Write a book. Fine, you win. The name of the book is Justice is Coming. So here, I got a hard copy with me here too.
They deceive us, they lie to us, and they tell us that they're gonna fight for us, and they do the exact opposite.
Is it already written? Nope. Some of it is written, but I'm working on the rest. So what you can do now, it's not out yet. You can pre-order.
Don't waste your money.
Oh, you're wasting
Don't
your money
waste your
so
money.
badly.
Pre-order one today online. Again, justicescomingbook.com. Justicescomingbook.com is the right website. By the way, you can also go to cenkuger.com. That also has the same information. Pre-order today. And obviously, we'll talk more about it as the book gets ready to come out, which will take some time.
I don't care anymore. They have not delivered. They have not delivered. I'm done.
He's still selling pre-orders for a book he's not delivered on. Cenk is scamming people with the book, and Ana Kasparian just either took a pot shot at Cenk or is worried that she is going to be called the scammer if she starts promoting her book that isn't done just like Cenk did. But even that, although it's the best part of the video for you long-term viewers out there who watch this channel, isn't the best part of this video. It isn't the best part of this rant, because this is a 10-minute defensive argumentation in order to provide cover for this professor who made a fool of herself during the course of this hearing. But Ana, in the closing, completely undercuts her entire premise and the premise of the professor.
And I'm so tired of these hearings being hijacked by these garbage lawmakers who want to give you the illusion of governing. They want to give you the illusion of legislating. They want to make it seem like they're actually doing something for you, when in reality, they're wasting time as women in this country are dealing with pregnancies, as women in this country,
That's right. When push comes to shove, when Ana starts getting emotional, the issue isn't about people with the capacity for pregnancy. The issue is about women. When Ana gets passionate, when Ana gets heated, even in the deep crevices of her lost soul, she knows that this language thing is ridiculous, and that's the distraction, and she just fumbled and bumbled as she was trying to attack Republicans and ended up highlighting the exact issue and why these hearings aren't going to stick, when all these professors and experts are focusing on making sure they can include the smallest minority of people and set them at the center stage rather than focus on the issue at hand. Beautiful in every possible way. Can't wait for you to start selling the pre-orders for your book, Ana. I will be #1 on the list to point out that if you do that without writing the book, that's hilarious and it deserves mockery. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about a crazy professor talking about people with the capacity for whatever. Till next time.